And welcome in everybody to another episode of Fantasy Fridays here with the High Low Sports Podcast. This week we're gonna be taking a look at some waiver wire pickups that might be able to help you going into this week 8, especially with all those receiver injuries we just saw happen last week. We're gonna go ahead and start right out of the gate. We're gonna go with the receiver for the New England Patriots, Demario Douglas. He's been kind of a hot commodity the last couple of weeks, especially in that first Drake May start when he had a little bit of his coming out party. Last week, well, it didn't go quite so great necessarily as he got banged up early on and had to leave with the illness. He still looks like he's going to be one of the main targets for New England. He's still very crafty, explosive, small, quick receiver. Drake May is going to need to get the ball out of his hands. I think it's a great pickup as well. He scored double-digit points right before last week, and I think he was well on his way before the injury last week. Mario Douglas, if he is still out there, I know some people already jumped on the bandwagon, but if he is still out there, be sure to add him to your lineup, especially if you have one of those receivers like Ayuk or Chris Godwin or Mike Evans, one of those guys who went down. Speaking of Godwin and Mike Evans, you don't have to look too much further than Tampa Bay to add someone to the list. Cade Otton, the tight end for Tampa Bay. He's had a very, very quiet season, kind of the afterthought in this offense. We saw him kind of come to life even before Godwin and Mike Evans went down. Early in that game, they're throwing screens to him, checkdowns. He finally had a little bit of an outburst, 18 points in PPR leagues. He had 11 points early in the year against Philadelphia. Otherwise, it's been kind of quiet, a couple nines here, but not a whole lot. But with both those guys going down, Baker needs to get the ball out of his hands. He needs somebody to get the ball to. He has trust in K. Dot, and you saw he down the stretch, he was just slinging it to him. You almost recklessly just throwing in the ball. So K. Dot, especially in a year where tight ends have not exactly been game breakers, he could be somebody to pick up. Maybe you use him as a flex if you have a good tight end, or he helps you out in the tight end spot so you can use other resources to fill in a flex or a receiver for those injuries. Speaking of injuries and Brandon Ayuk, we're going to go to his team and look at Ricky Pearsall finally returning to action after the very incredibly unfortunate incident he had to deal with in the offseason. He was able to come back in his first action last week. Did get about 5 points or so, not a whole lot, a little bit higher than projected. Both Brandon Ayuk getting out, being injured. Debo Samuel looks like he's going to be back to play this week, but we'll have to see. We obviously, his usage rate and the way he is used, he's always a concern for missing snaps and hopefully not games, but it can happen. Juwan Jennings still a little banged up. It looks like he's coming back as well. Obviously, the 49ers don't run a lot of three receiver sets. However, I could see Ricky Pearsall slowly getting integrated into the offense. Maybe not this week. They're playing Dallas. Maybe don't throw him out there right away, hoping for like a 20-point outburst. But if he is available, it's worth taking a look at. It is worth adding him to the lineup. They have a bye week after that. Then they got teams like Tampa Bay, Seattle, Green Bay, Buffalo, the Rams. They have some very Cardinals and the Lions. Like those are some very receiver-friendly defenses they'll be going against. If Pearsall catches his stride and gets on the same page with Brock Purdy, especially after that Week 10 bye week, could be something to look out or Week 9 bye week, excuse me. Could be something to look forward to. I think he's definitely worth picking up and stashing. Wait till you see it necessarily, but I think once you see it, it could be something to run away with. Speaking of running the ball, we're going to go to Alexander Madison, the running back for the Raiders. There's not a lot you want to take from the Raiders outside of Brock Bowers at this point. They're kind of a mess. It's not looking too great. It looks like Madison has kind of taken over that lead back role, getting 15 points last week, 17 the week before. A little bit more efficient, 10 points against Denver. He's been their best running back all season. He has pretty much double digits in all but just a couple of games. If you do pick him up this week, he was playing Kansas City, so, pound of salt with that one. But running backs, as you know, injuries, flex options, if you're dealing with injuries, he'd be someone to plug in there, maybe get you 10 to 12 points per week, depending on the matchup. This week against the Chiefs, maybe not so much. It could happen, but just tread lightly with that one. But Alexander Madison, in a lot of leagues, I think he is starting to become available. He did just pop up in one of my leagues as available just because he's been consistently okay, but he hasn't exactly broken. He hasn't been a starting running back for the most part necessarily, but could be somebody that helps you, especially if you're dealing with injuries like me and a lot of others are as well. But here's what we got for Fantasy Fridays this week. Go ahead and let us know in the comments down below what waiver wire guys you are looking to add and which ones you're just going to fade and stay all the way away from. You're not going to fall into the trap like the Dontavian Wicks trap from a few weeks ago that myself and many others fell into. But we appreciate y'all for watching with us, and we'll see you all again next week.